Hi there, I'm Jen Rice, and you saw by my title here, let's get to the meat of it. Well, we're talking today about cured versus uncured meat, and what does that have to do with inflammation? And this topic came up for me this week because we do a lot of talking about inflammation in general through functional medicine. And when you're talking about lung inflammation, particularly COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, emphysema, asthma, certainly chronic lung infections, those are all things that are inflammation of the lungs. And when we're talking about the lungs in particular, how does this lung inflammation even come about? And what the heck does that have to do with cured meat versus uncured meat, right? So I'm going to get to that. So basically, lung inflammation, obviously we all know that lung inflammation can come from smoking or smoke exposure. And then we know that it can also come from just environmental, air pollution, air toxins that happen to us. And then household chemicals, that's another way that we can get this exposure, as well as being overweight. Believe it or not, being overweight can lead to lung inflammation. And cured meats. So eating cured meats can actually cause lung inflammation. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, I'm not an expert in how people make meat cured or anything like that, but I do know that the nitrates that are used for cured meat, there's like this reactive nitrogen species that happens, and it may cause damage to the lung, and that can result in such conditions like emphysema. So I know for my science people out there, I wanted to make sure to talk a little bit about the American Journal of Respiratory and Critical Care. They have a journal out, and they actually did a study that had to do with cured meat, and they said that frequent cured meat consumption was associated independently with an obstructive pattern of lung function and increased the odds of developing COPD, that chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And so when you think about cured meats, like, what are they? That would be like, well, bacon falls in there, bologna, chorizo, prosciutto. I mean, there's a lot of different cured meats. And not only is it related to lung infections, but there's been links to people that suffer with migraine headaches, heart failure, kidney disease issues. And the reason that people even began curing meats is to help prevent food poisoning, which, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? You want to cure the meats to keep them preserved, to keep them edible. And then there's this whole, if you've been shopping for any meats, you'll see uncured. And you might think, okay, well, maybe that means that it's, preservative free or nitrate free. But actually, when they're preserving the meats with something like celery juice, that actually releases nitrates too. So we're not kind of off the hook by just buying uncured meats versus cured meats. So, really what a lot of the, science is telling us is that if you suffer with any kind of inflammation or you want to get the inflammation down in your system, to just avoid all of those cured or uncured meats in general. And I'm not saying you can never eat them again, but certainly trying to avoid them as much as possible is key. And then, making sure that you're not just kind of falling for marketing gimmicks of, like, just because it says uncured doesn't mean it's going to necessarily be nitrate free. And so I think there's a lot of information and good science behind this when it comes to, like I said, chronic inflammatory conditions. I know for me personally, trying to eat little, if any, of the cured or uncured meats. And if you know someone that has like a lung condition and their diet is maybe rich in deli meats, or that's where they tend to gravitate towards, it may be worth the removal of it in order to see if things can improve for them, because there is quite a bit of science behind that. So, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider sharing it with someone. Also, if you like this kind of information and these type of health videos, feel free to go over to my Jenn Rice International business page. I have a little more content there for health seekers. And I also put on a 14-day challenge introductory to anti-inflammatory lifestyle, which I do monthly. And our next challenge is launching mid-July. But hopefully you guys aren't complete lovers of all cured and uncured meat, and I haven't ruined your weekend or anything, but please feel free to drop me some comments if you suffer from migraines or kidney issues or lung condition. Removing these type of meats is probably key. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Take care.